They're taking your bonus to wipe out your brother's gambling debt, my parents casually announced during Sunday lunch. $31,000 should take care of it. I simply nodded. Whatever you need. Later that afternoon, I quietly transferred every dollar I had into a brand new bank account they had no idea existed. By Wednesday, the mortgage payment they expected to go through had bounced. My dad called me 19 times that day. I ignored every call until the 20th. Sorry, I said when I finally picked up. I'm broke, remember? The moment my dad mentioned the amount, my mouth went completely dry. It's really not that much, Ethan, he said while slicing into his roast chicken as if this were just another ordinary Sunday conversation. $31,000. Your Christmas bonus covers it. My mom gently pushed the bowl of potatoes toward me like we were discussing dinner instead of emptying my bank account. It's only a transfer, she added. On paper, you won't even notice it. I stared at the gravy spreading across my plate. It was 1:17 on a gloomy Sunday afternoon in March. A Browns game played quietly on the television in the background, while my brother Logan kept scrolling through his phone as though the conversation had absolutely nothing to do with him. 31,000, I repeated. Mom gave me that calm, reasonable smile she always used. You make that much in what? A few months now? I'm a massage therapist, I replied. Not a surgeon. You're really good at what you do, Dad interrupted. Your schedule is always full. This is exactly why you work so hard, so your family doesn't fall apart when somebody makes a mistake. He called it a mistake like Logan had accidentally overdrafted his checking account, not gambled himself into a massive hole with a guy who apparently relied on threatening text messages instead of legal contracts. Logan finally glanced up from his phone. I said I'm dealing with it, he muttered. You are, Mom said gently, by letting your brother help. That's what family is supposed to do. I started counting. That's what my brain does whenever I'm trying not to panic. 1. The gravy boat. 2. The salt shaker. 3. The ring left on the table by Dad's beer bottle. There were 4 people sitting around that table, and 3 of them were waiting for me to agree. How is my bonus paying off your gambling debt, considered you handling it? I asked. Logan's face turned red. I'll pay you back. When? He let out a long sigh. Man, I don't know. Money's tight right now. Before I could respond, Mom jumped back into the conversation. Your father already talked to the bank, she explained. We're refinancing the house to cover the rest, but we need your bonus to pay off that man. She lowered her voice when she referred to the bookie, like even saying the word out loud might somehow stain the curtains. Dad pointed his fork directly at me. We're not asking you to do anything illegal, he said. We're asking you to move money from one account to another so your brother doesn't end up with broken knees and we don't lose this house. He always used that calm, reasonable tone whenever he was asking for something enormous. I turned toward Mom. You actually talked to the bank about my bonus? You told us when it would be deposited, she answered, as if that somehow counted as permission. Last Sunday, remember? You said December 15th. Direct deposit. Same as always. My hands suddenly felt ice cold. So, Dad continued. We scheduled the transfer from the joint account for Monday morning. Everything's already set up. We just need you not to make a big deal out of it. There it was. This wasn't a request. It was simply advance notice. Wait, I said slowly. You already moved the money? The transfer is still pending, Mom replied, but it's staying in the family. You still live here. We pay for your room, your meals, your laundry, your car insurance. My car insurance that I reimburse you for, I interrupted. It's still under our policy, she answered without missing a beat. Dad shook his head. This attitude is exactly why we didn't tell you sooner. You always overreact. You get dramatic. My heart was pounding so hard I could actually feel it in my throat. I looked over at Logan. How much do you actually owe? He shrugged without looking at me. 40. Give or take. The 31,000 gets rid of the dangerous part, Dad said. We'll deal with the rest later. And what if I say no? Mom let out a soft little laugh like I'd just made a joke that landed badly. Oh, sweetheart, be realistic. There isn't a no. You're our son. Logan is your brother. We keep things smooth. Smooth. That was my family's favorite word. It really meant, we've already made the decision, so don't make us feel guilty about it. I wiped my damp hands against my jeans. I was 32 years old, Yet sitting in that kitchen made me feel exactly like the little kid who used to hand over his birthday money because Dad said he'd keep it safe. Logan shifted awkwardly in his chair. Look, man, I swear I'll make this right. I've been applying for better jobs. As soon as I land something decent, I'll send you money every month. I promise. I watched him quietly for several long seconds. Who is this guy? I finally asked. The person you owe. Does that really matter? Dad snapped. Yes, I answered. If my money is involved, it absolutely matters. Your name isn't connected to anything, Mom said casually. It's just cash that needs to move. You'll be fine. You're single. You don't have kids. You barely have any real expenses. You can recover. Your brother doesn't have the same opportunities you do. There it was. The familiar script. Ethan can always adjust. Ethan can always carry everyone else's problems. My fork tapped against the plate. $31,000. I repeated, mostly because hearing it out loud still didn't seem real. Mom leaned over and gently patted my hand. You'll earn it back, she said softly. We need it more than you do. She delivered those words so gently they almost sounded kind, which somehow made them even crueler. Every part of me wanted to stand up. I wanted to yell. I wanted to tell them absolutely not. Instead, I heard myself answer in the calmest voice imaginable. Okay. Dad relaxed immediately. Good. Whatever you need, I added. Relief instantly spread across Mom's face. See? That's why we've always known you were the responsible one. Logan barely looked up from his phone. Thanks, man. Then he went right back to scrolling. I didn't yell. I didn't flip the table over. I quietly finished eating my chicken. After lunch, I helped clear the dishes. I loaded the dishwasher, and at exactly 3:42 that afternoon, I walked into my small room at the end of the hallway. I opened my laptop, logged into my online banking, transferred every dollar I had into a completely different account at another credit union they didn't even know existed. My hand trembled when I clicked confirm. I didn't raise my voice. I simply moved my money. My name is Ethan. I'm 32 years old. I live in Parma, just outside Cleveland, Ohio, in the same split-level house my parents bought back in 1996. Officially, I live in their basement. Realistically, it's a half-finished room with an old twin bed, a dresser that's been there since 2004, and my massage table folded against the wall, a constant reminder that my actual life seemed to exist everywhere except inside that house. I work full-time as a massage therapist at a franchise clinic off Ridge Road. I handle deep tissue, sports massage, prenatal massage, pretty much everything they offer. I earn $26 an hour, plus tips, and every quarter we receive a bonus if our location reaches its membership goals. That December bonus was supposed to be my fresh start. I planned to pay down my credit card, save enough for the first and last month's rent on a tiny studio apartment, and finally stop stepping over my dad's laundry basket every time I walked up the basement stairs. And before you ask why a 32-year-old man was still living with his parents, here's the short version. In 2020, COVID hit. When COVID hit in 2020, the spa where I worked shut its doors for months. My hours disappeared almost overnight, and before long, the savings I'd worked so hard to build were gone too. I told myself I'd move back in with my parents for no more than a year. That was 6 years ago. We're happy to have you back, Mom had said then. Just until things are smooth again. Smooth. That word came up a lot in my family. These days, smooth means I pay them $900 every month in rent, which just so happens to be almost exactly what their mortgage payment is. My car stays on their insurance policy because they insist it keeps the premium lower, even though every payment comes straight out of my own bank account. My paycheck has also been going into a joint checking account ever since I was 17 and started working at Subway. They always called it more convenient. Whenever I mentioned separating my finances, the conversation turned into something that felt more like a performance review than a discussion. You think we'd steal from you? Dad would ask, acting personally offended. Mom would let out a disappointed sigh. Honey, you know paperwork isn't your strong suit. This way, nothing slips through the cracks. Then Logan would throw in his usual comment. Must be nice to have enough money that you're worried about where to keep it. Logan is 29, my younger brother. He's basically an overly friendly golden retriever with a gambling problem. Ever since he dropped out of community college, he's been almost getting his life together. There was the truck Dad co-signed for him. Logan forgot to make the payments. The truck got repossessed. Dad ended up with another ulcer. Then there was the credit card Logan claimed he'd only use for gas. Somehow it ended up maxed out at $8,700 on DraftKings and FanDuel. Mom's response: "We'll all pay it down together as a family." By we, she really meant my bonuses for the next year and a half. Then came 2021. Logan borrowed $5,000 from me. He swore he'd pay me back within 3 months because he had a sure thing bet lined up. The sure thing never happened. When I finally asked about the money, he laughed. "Come on," he said. "You're acting like this was some bank loan. Relax, dude. Family helps family." That was the language everyone in my house spoke. Smooth. Family helps family. Don't make a scene. Don't be dramatic. We're just moving money around. Looking back now, I wish I could say I recognized what was happening. I didn't. I swallowed every excuse they gave me. I convinced myself it was only temporary. Once I moved out, everything would stop. Meanwhile, I kept hearing my name pop up in conversations about bills I never actually saw. The electric bills paid. The water bills taken care of. Ethan's payment cleared. I'd overhear Mom saying things like that while she talked to Dad on the phone, pretending I wasn't within earshot. Eventually, I stopped questioning random withdrawals from my account. There would be vague descriptions like transfer or strange memo lines that made no sense. Whenever I asked, there was always an explanation. "We covered your dental work. We bought groceries. We carried you through COVID." The list of favors somehow always favored them. About a year earlier, I finally tried pushing back. I noticed a $600 transfer in my bank statement labeled as a family loan to Logan. No one had asked me. No one had even mentioned it. When I confronted Mom, she burst into tears. Real tears. "I thought we raised you better than this," she said while dabbing her eyes with a paper towel. "Your father and I sacrificed everything for you boys." Dad just slowly shook his head. "Unbelievable." Logan patted me on the shoulder. "It's only $60, man." It wasn't. It was 600. Logan always had a way of shrinking the numbers whenever they made him look bad. "Just until things are smooth again," Mom repeated. I gave up on arguing and went downstairs. I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed, "June 3rd, 2025, $600 family loan to Logan transferred without my consent." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I added one more sentence. "I thought this was temporary." That single note slowly turned into an entire file. Dates. Amounts. Who said what. Screenshots. Tiny pieces of proof. Little receipts that nobody knew existed except me. Every month, I'd promise myself I'd finally start apartment hunting. Then something else would happen. The water heater would break. Logan would suddenly need money for gas to get to work. Dad would loudly remind me that this roof was over my head too. So I kept working. Every day I'd spend hours loosening the knots in strangers' shoulders while the tension in my own body hardened into stone. And every month I repeated the same promise to myself. Once that big December bonus comes, I'm gone. Apparently my parents had been planning around that bonus too. The only difference was that they imagined it pulling me even deeper into their mess. Sunday afternoon, after lunch, I never argued. I smiled. I cleared the dishes. I recycled the empty beer bottles. Dad hugged me by the front door with that familiar double pat on the back that always meant the conversation was officially over. "Proud of you," he said. "You're doing the right thing." "Whatever you need," I answered again. He smiled. "That's my boy." I went downstairs, closed my bedroom door, and pulled out the folder where I'd been quietly collecting everything. Bank receipts, screenshots of old transfers, the notes on my phone, photos of checks I'd written toward household expenses over the years. Even the email from my manager that read, "Congratulations, Ethan. You're on track for an approximately $31,000 quarterly bonus. Expected deposit, December 15th. I even took a picture of that email. Then I opened a new browser tab and applied for a checking account at a different credit union. The application took about 9 minutes. Name, address, social security number, opening deposit. When the form asked where future deposits would come from, I selected payroll/direct deposit and entered the routing and account information required for Massage Envy's payroll system. Before finishing, I noticed one final checkbox. Link an external account? I left it unchecked. Next, I updated my direct deposit information through the employee portal. I printed the confirmation as a PDF. Then I emailed it to myself with the subject line, "New DD, parents not notified." Finally, I called the customer service number on the back of my debit card. "Hi, this is Ethan Parker," I said. "I need to cancel every scheduled transfer coming out of my checking account, especially anything labeled mortgage or house." The representative was polite. "Of course, Mr. Parker. Let me take a look." A few seconds later, she found it. Automatic transfer. $2,850. Monthly. Description, Parker Mortgage. "Please cancel it," I said. She paused. "Just to confirm, you're aware this will stop payments to the linked mortgage account ending in 2197? "I'm aware," I replied. "That mortgage isn't in my name. If they want it paid, they'll have to pay it themselves." For a second, I barely recognized my own voice. It sounded calm, confident, steady. She processed the cancellation. Even so, I wrote down the exact date and time in my notes. Sunday night came and went. Nothing happened. On Monday, I went to work as usual. 8 massage appointments, mostly backs and shoulders. One regular client who always begged for extra deep pressure and then spent the entire session yelping. By the end of the day, my shoulders hurt and my mind wouldn't slow down. At exactly 4:09 p.m., my phone vibrated. Direct deposit received. $31,224. 58, Massage Envy Incorporated. I immediately took a screenshot. Then I opened the app for my new credit union and transferred every penny into that account. The joint account my parents controlled stayed untouched. 3 minutes later, at 4:12 p.m., another notification appeared. Scheduled transfer, $31,000. 00, failed ***. Reason, insufficient funds. I captured another screenshot. Part of me expected my phone to start ringing that very second. It didn't. Monday night passed in complete silence. Then Tuesday arrived. At exactly 11:23 that night, Logan finally texted me. "Bro, you talk." Logan's text read, "Bro, talk to mom." I stared at the screen for a few seconds before replying. "About what?" A moment later he answered, "Ick. She's in a mood." I typed back, "I'm sleeping. Talk tomorrow." The truth was, I wasn't sleeping at all. I was lying flat on my bed, staring up at the ceiling while muffled voices drifted down from upstairs. I couldn't make out every word, but I recognized the tone. Quiet, sharp, tense. Every now and then, a phrase broke through the floorboards. "Bonus. Where is it?" He promised. I slipped my headphones on, started a white noise track, and drowned the rest out. Wednesday morning was when everything finally exploded. At 8:07 a.m., a notification from Chase appeared on my phone. "Your account ending in 4421 attempted an automatic payment of $2,850. 00 to Parker Mortgage. Transaction declined due to insufficient funds." I watched the notification disappear from the top of my screen. 2 minutes later, at 8:09, Dad called. I let it ring. At 8:12, he called again. Then again. I turned my phone face down inside my locker and started my shift. By the time my lunch break came around at 1 o'clock, my phone looked ridiculous. 19 missed calls. 10 from Dad. 5 from Mom. 3 from Logan. 1 from the house phone. There were also 3 voicemails waiting. I plugged my phone into the charger, sat down in the break room with my depressing turkey sandwich, and pressed play. The first voicemail was from Dad. Recorded at 8:10 that morning. "Ethan, what the hell did you do? Call me back. Now." The second was Mom. 8:16 a.m. "Honey, something's wrong. The mortgage payment bounced. Your bonus isn't showing up anywhere. The bank says nothing is pending. Please call us. This isn't funny." Then came Dad again. 8:23 a.m. "Listen, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but the mortgage is due, and Logan's situation can't wait. You gave us your word. You're going to fix this. Call me." I took another bite of my sandwich just to keep myself from saying something out loud. The calm, reasonable version of my parents had disappeared. This was the other version. The one that came out whenever I stopped acting like the obedient son and became a problem they needed to solve. For a second, my thumb hovered over the call button. Instead, I opened my camera. I took a picture of my phone screen showing all 19 missed calls. 1:07 p.m. March 18th, 2026. Another receipt. I poured myself a cup of burned breakroom coffee and sat quietly until my lunch timer went off. At 5:30 that evening, I clocked out. I sat behind the wheel of my car, leaned my head against the headrest, and finally returned Dad's call. Ethan. Dad. Where is it? He demanded without even saying hello. I looked through my windshield at the fading March daylight, the streaks of dried road salt, and my own reflection staring back at me. Where's what? I asked. The money. His voice was sharp enough to cut glass. The bonus. The transfer failed. The mortgage payment bounced. The guy Logan owes won't stop calling him. Where is the money? I answered as calmly as I could. Sorry. I'm broke, remember? Silence. Then, what? You said on Sunday. I reminded him that you needed it more than I did. You told me I'd earn it back. You said I'd be fine because I don't have any real expenses. So I figured that meant I was broke now. Don't play dumb, he snapped. You changed something. You did something to that account. The bank says the money never even arrived. Where did you send it? To my account, I answered. My personal account. The one that's only in my name. That joint account is your account, he shot back, sounding genuinely offended. No, I said. It's your account with my name attached for convenience. That convenience is over. He actually laughed. Not because anything was funny, because he couldn't believe what he was hearing. So you think you can just walk away and leave us hanging? Yes. That's exactly what I think. You selfish little. I let the silence stretch. After a moment, he tried again. We had an agreement. You said, whatever you need. I did. And what I need, I replied, is my money sitting in an account you can't touch. You weren't asking me for help, Dad. You were informing me about a decision you'd already made. I simply reversed it. His voice dropped lower. You're going to fix this. You're going to walk into that bank, move the bonus back where it belongs, and apologize to your mother for scaring her. No. The line became completely silent. What did you just say? I said no. I'm not paying Logan's gambling debt. I'm not paying your mortgage. I'm done. His patience finally disappeared. You're living under my roof, he snarled. You really think you're going to keep sleeping in my house while I struggle to keep it? You think you can cut us off and just... That's your decision, I interrupted. If you want to evict me because I refuse to hand over $31,000, put it in writing. I'll keep it with my records. My records? He repeated with disgust. So that's what this is now? You think some spreadsheet is going to protect you after this family is finished with you? Oddly enough, I could actually feel my heartbeat slowing down. That's exactly it, I said quietly. I think those records are what will protect me. I heard him take a slow breath. Then his voice changed completely. The bargaining tone. Ethan, don't do this. You don't understand how serious Logan's situation really is. The man he owes. That's not my problem, I said. If the guy is actually dangerous, call the police. If he isn't, Logan can work out a payment plan. Either way, he isn't getting my bonus. You're being dramatic, Dad snapped. It's only money. It's my money, I answered. Suddenly Mom's voice cut into the conversation. She must have taken the phone from him. Ethan, honey, we raised you better than this. You raised me to let you manage my finances, I replied. That ends today. You can't just... I'm not having this conversation over the phone. If either of you wants to discuss money from now on, do it in writing. Email. Text message. I don't care. But there won't be any more verbal agreements. Ethan, I have to go, I said. I have a client scheduled at 7. My time is literally how I earn my money, and I'm done giving it away for free. Then I hung up. That was the moment I stopped arguing and started documenting. You learn a surprising amount about people the moment you ask them to put their demands in writing. That evening, our family group chat exploded. Mom wrote first. We need to talk. Dad followed. This stunt you've pulled has put this family in danger. Then Logan. Bro, please. Just fix it this one time. I didn't answer a single message. Instead, I opened my laptop and started writing an email. To * Mom and Dad. Subject * financial boundaries. Effective immediately. I wrote, Hello Mom and Dad. Following today's phone conversation, I want to clearly document my position in writing. I will not be paying Logan's gambling debts. I will not be making mortgage payments on your home. I have redirected my payroll deposits and canceled every automatic transfer connected to the joint checking account ending in 4421. From this point forward, you do not have permission to move money from any account that includes my name unless I provide explicit written authorization beforehand. I have also documented previous transactions that were made without my consent, including the June 3rd, 2025 transfer of $600 labeled as a family loan to Logan, as well as other unauthorized transfers currently recorded for my personal files. If my decision affects my living arrangements, please notify me in writing no later than April 1. If necessary, I will vacate the property within 30 days. I read the email 3 times before sending it. I checked every sentence carefully to make sure there were no extra words, no emotional outbursts, and definitely no apologies. Just facts. When I was satisfied, I clicked send. The following afternoon, I grabbed my folder of receipts and documentation and met with a lawyer. He wasn't one of those expensive attorneys in a downtown office tower. His office sat in a small strip mall between a dry cleaner and a tax service. The sign outside read Anderson and Bennett, Family Law and General Practice. Inside, there was a potted plant in the corner, a Keurig in the waiting room, and furniture that had clearly seen better days. The attorney I met was Mr. Bennett. Late 40s, calm eyes, cheap tie, exactly the kind of person who looked like he'd heard every family disaster imaginable. He quietly flipped through my screenshots, my notes, and the printouts of my bank statements. Finally, he looked up. So, he said, your parents have been moving money through a joint account and calling it family support. Yes. And there's nothing in writing saying you agreed to pay their mortgage or your brother's gambling debts? No. Just guilt. He nodded. Okay. The good news is that you don't legally owe anyone $31,000 just because your father says you do. I blinked. That's it. Pretty much. He folded his hands together. If your name isn't on the mortgage, and it isn't, and you're not on your brother's debt, then none of those obligations belong to you. What about all the money they transferred before? I asked. The stuff they moved without asking me. He tapped his pen against the file. That's a little messy, eh? He thought for a moment. But unless you're planning to sue your parents, and I get the feeling you aren't, I would treat those transactions as the reason you're setting boundaries today. Going forward, separate everything. No more joint accounts. No shared access. No shared passwords. No cards. He slid my folder back across the desk. And if they threaten you, he added, document every single time. If anyone shows up at your workplace, call the police. And if this bookie contacts you directly, call me first, and then call law enforcement. I sat there quietly for a second. So basically, I'm allowed to stop? A small smile crossed his face. You're allowed to stop. You always were. I left his office carrying nothing more than a business card, but somehow my chest felt lighter than it had in years. The feeling wasn't exactly happiness. It felt more like grief. Friday night, everything finally exploded. I pulled into the driveway after a late shift and immediately noticed Dad's truck sitting there with the engine still running. The porch light was on. Mom stood outside with her arms folded tightly across her chest. Logan was sitting on the front steps with his hood pulled over his head, bouncing one knee nervously. The second I stepped out of my car, Dad walked straight toward me. You talked to a lawyer? He demanded. I blinked. Nice to see you too. He shoved his phone toward my face. My email filled the screen. Financial boundaries. Effective immediately, he read aloud. Yes. Mom forced a tight smile. That was completely unnecessary, Ethan. I only put in writing what I already told you over the phone. That's called being clear. You went to a complete stranger before coming to your own family, she said. Do you realize how hurtful that is? I looked at her. You went to my paycheck before talking to me. Do you realize how illegal that is? Dad stepped even closer. We're not the bad guys here. Your brother's in danger. For the first time since I'd gotten home, Logan finally spoke. He wants the money by Monday. His voice was barely above a whisper. Otherwise, he's coming here. That sounds like something the police should handle, I answered. Logan stared at me. Are you seriously saying that? Yes. Dad lowered his voice. If he comes to this house because you refuse to help, do you really think we're calling the cops? He paused. We'll tell him exactly where to find you. Mom immediately hissed. Thomas. Dad only shrugged. Maybe that'll knock some sense into him. Something inside me shifted. Not emotionally. Physically. A cold feeling settled deep in my stomach. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Thank you, I said. Dad frowned. For what? For saying that out loud. I pressed the record button. Mom immediately noticed. Ethan. I looked straight at Dad. Go ahead. Say it again. Tell me you'll send a violent man to my job or my bedroom if I don't give you money. His jaw tightened. Turn that thing off. I didn't move. Standing there under the porch light, I suddenly saw all three of them differently. Not powerful, not intimidating, just desperate, cornered, and ugly. Dad finally looked toward the neighboring houses. Get inside. We're not doing this in front of the neighbors. No, I replied. We're not doing this at all. I slipped my house key off my key ring and held it out. You can keep this. Consider it my notice. Mom's voice jumped an octave. Don't be ridiculous. Where are you even going to live? You can't afford. I already signed a lease. That was a lie. Eyed toward the apartment. I was planning to sign the paperwork the next morning. My bonus covers the first month's rent, the last month's rent, and the security deposit. It's a studio in Lakewood. It's cheaper than your mortgage. Mom's eyes widened. So you're abandoning us over money? I shook my head. I'm leaving because you stopped seeing me as a son. You only see money. For a brief second, I caught something in Logan's expression. It looked almost like shame. Then he looked away. Dad held out his hand. We're finished. If you walk away from this family, don't come crawling back when these little boundaries blow up in your face. I placed my house key into his palm. Then I gently closed his fingers around it. I won't be crawling anywhere near you. Across the street, one of the neighbors had stepped onto his porch with a cigarette. Another porch light clicked on next door. People were watching now. Maybe they were just curious. Maybe they were nosy. Either way, we had witnesses. Mom's voice became shrill. You can't just cut us off like this. I looked back one last time. I'm not cutting you off. I'm unplugging myself. The electric bill is yours now. Then I turned around, walked back to my car, and climbed inside. Dad shouted my name. Mom yelled, Ethan, don't you dare drive away. Logan never said another word. As I pulled away from the house, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered after pulling over. This is Officer Hughes with the Parma Police Department. Am I speaking with Ethan Parker? My heart immediately started pounding. I called him back. As it turned out, the bookie had actually tried reporting a missing payment under my name. Officer Hughes sounded calm, almost bored, as he explained the situation. When he finished, he said, We see this kind of thing from time to time. Someone tries dragging another family member into their financial mess. Your name isn't attached to this man's records. If he contacts you directly, block him. Then call us. You're not responsible for your brother's debt. He paused, then asked a question that caught me off guard. Is your family making you feel like you are? Yes. Then here's my advice. Get your own place. Use your own bank account. Change your address. It'll probably get louder before it gets quiet. But eventually, it will get quiet. The following Monday morning, I signed the lease on a 400-square-foot studio apartment. The paint was peeling. There was still a faint smell of old cigarette smoke. It wasn't impressive, but it was mine. I sent my parents one final email. Effective today, I no longer reside at 214 Maple. If you need to contact me about legitimate matters, use this email address. I will not discuss money or Logan's debts by phone or in person. Then I turned my phone's ringer off. Everything Officer Hughes predicted happened almost immediately. The angry phone calls kept coming. People pounded on the door of my old room. One of my former neighbors even texted me a video. Long messages arrived accusing me of betrayal. Others talked about the terrible example I was supposedly setting for my future children. I saved every message in my documentation folder. I never went back. 3 months later, my life looked small, but completely mine. I rented a one-room studio. The refrigerator was loud. My mattress sat on a simple platform. The kitchen table wobbled. I owned exactly 2 chairs. My old massage table leaned against the wall. Every Sunday, I visited a handful of regular clients for in-home massage appointments. Some paid cash. Others sent me money through Venmo. When my first electric bill arrived, I taped it to my refrigerator like a kid hanging up a gold star. Every evening I sat at that shaky little table updating a spreadsheet. Income, rent, groceries, savings. The $31,000 disappeared quickly between moving expenses and paying off my credit card. But every single dollar went exactly where I decided it should. One afternoon, my cousin texted me. Heard about the mortgage. You okay? I answered honestly. Yeah, I just stopped paying for everyone else. From what I eventually heard, my parents refinanced the house, sold Dad's truck, and somehow settled things with the bookie without my money. Turns out they managed after all. Around the 4th of July, they showed up at my apartment carrying a pan of lasagna. I never buzzed them into the building. Later that evening, I sent a short email. I'm not returning to a home where my paycheck is treated like community property. Access to my money is not a family right.